Shame is one of the most universal human experiences, yet one of the hardest to name out loud. We feel it when we can't keep up financially, when our bodies don't match the world's expectations, when addiction has taken something precious from us, or when we've been rejected by family, faith, or community. Shame can come from being told we're sinful, unworthy, or simply too much. For those of us who grew up in high-control religious groups, shame wasn't just an emotion, it was a system. It was how behavior was shaped, belonging controlled, and identity fractured. Every meeting, every doctrine, every reminder carried the same message. You were never quite enough. Psychologists describe shame as the intensely painful belief that we are flawed and therefore unworthy of love and belonging. Unlike guilt, which says I did something wrong, shame says I am wrong. That distinction matters. Guilt points to behavior, but shame targets the self. Living with shame can feel like standing behind glass, watching connection, love, and joy from the other side. You can see them, but you can't touch them. It's like carrying an invisible backpack full of stones, every memory, mistake, and rejection adding weight that no one else can see. You become both the prisoner and the guard, locked inside by old judgments, yet policing yourself harder than anyone else ever could. And even when you try to rest, shame whispers. It makes celebration nearly impossible, because even in moments of success, there's a voice reminding you that you don't deserve it. For someone living with shame, life is a constant negotiation between wanting to be seen and desperately fearing exposure. It's lonely, it's exhausting, and it's deeply painful. From an evolutionary lens, shame originally had a purpose. In ancient times, survival depended on belonging to a group. Being cast out could mean death. So shame evolved as a warning system, a signal that said you're at risk of rejection. Fix this to stay safe. But in the modern world, that wiring misfires. Today it's triggered by things that aren't moral failures at all. Poverty, disability, queerness, chronic illness, trauma. Our bodies and hearts still react as if our survival depends on social approval, even when the danger is just different. Our culture reinforces that. It ties worth to productivity, beauty, and independence. So when someone can't work due to illness or struggles financially, shame rushes in to declare you're failing. But that's not a moral truth. It's a cultural illusion. Dr. Brené Brown, one of the leading researchers on shame, has spent decades studying its patterns. She explains that if you put shame in a petri dish, it needs three things to grow: secrecy, silence, and judgment. Think about that just for a moment. Secrecy, silence, and judgment. Doesn't that sound familiar? For queer people like us who have been shunned, expelled, or cast out, we've already been forced into silence. We've already carried secrets about who we are. We've already endured judgment from those we love the most. It's no wonder then that shame digs its roots so deep into our bones. Here's where the cycle begins. Shame isolates us. It says, don't tell anyone. Hide this or you'll be rejected. That secrecy only feeds the sense of disconnection, leaving us lonelier, more convinced that the lie is true. So people withdraw, avoid asking for help, and stop showing vulnerability. That isolation removes corrective experiences such as empathy or acceptance and leaves the shame story unchallenged. A person becomes lonely, and loneliness intensifies shame. For those of us who grew up as Jehovah's Witnesses, shame wasn't just occasional, it was structural. From the time we were children, we were told that our natural impulses, our sexuality, our independent thoughts, even our doubts, were sinful. The threat of disfellowshipping or excommunication was always hanging overhead. Being queer, that shame was magnified. You weren't just breaking a rule, you were being condemned for just being. When worth is tied to compliance, shame gets planted deep into our nervous systems. We learn to hide, to self-censor, to see ourselves as inherently flawed. That's not just trauma, that's a reprogramming of identity. Dr. Brown teaches that the antidote to shame is empathy. When someone meets us in our darkest hour and says, "Me too, I've been there," or "I understand and you didn't deserve that," shame begins to lose its power. That's why conversations like this matter. When we speak the unspoken and listen with compassion, we are breaking the silence and cutting through the secrecy. Shame doesn't only belong to those who were raised in strict religion. It shows up in so many lives. A parent who can't provide financially and feels like a failure. A student who struggles with grades and believes they're stupid. A person living with addiction who wakes up every morning drowning in regret. Someone rejected by family because of who they love. survivors of assault who carry the burden of someone else's violence as if it were their fault. These experiences may look different on the surface, but the root feeling is the same. The fear that if people really saw us, we'd be abandoned. As much as shame can feel like identity, it's the result of learned responses, social experiences, and nervous system conditioning. Those patterns are powerful, but not permanent facts about your worth. You are a person whose nervous system and life history created this protective but painful habit. That's important because it means you're not identical to your shame. The shame is a process happening inside of you. Empathy is the antidote. Empathy doesn't fix the past. It doesn't erase trauma, but it gives us what shame says we don't deserve: connection. In that moment of being seen without judgment, we remember that we are human and still worthy of love and belonging. You don't have to become fearless to be free. You have to become faithful to truth, to your body, and to the few people who have earned the right to hear your story. You are allowed to be seen without being perfect. You are allowed to need, to ask, to begin again. My name is Aidan Phoenix, just one person meeting another person in their pain and saying, you're not alone here. This is Life Beyond Scars. Thank you for listening, and I hope today's episode draws a little more inspiration for you on your journey. Until next time, remember, you were never broken. You were always becoming, and I am so grateful to be walking this journey with you. I'll see you on the next episode.